Peace, peace. Now's the vibrate. I was just realizing as I was writing out an affirmation, and about like I was speaking on like always doing things that are in the highest priority for the now moment. But then also I put creating the future and accepting the past, because sometimes I put healing the past, but I'm like, sometimes in tomato and what certain words mean to us and our subconscious, again, some people could hear one word and it mean something totally different from the other. Somebody in the 50s will hear the word bad and think you really mean bad. Somebody in the 2000s hear the word bad and think you're talking about something that's good. You know what I'm saying? To each his own interpretations of words. But just in the connotation of how sometimes these words may, you know, be programmed into our subconscious, I think about healing. In a lot of cases, we use the word healing to apply in some cases when something is wrong, you know. And I'm like, I don't even want to say healing my past, and not to even, still use the word healing, but we're always looking for words that, to even better eliminate these little subconscious blockages and little old connections, with certain wordplay and stuff like that. It's like creating the future and accepting the past, not necessarily trying to change the past or any of that, because I even realized, like, again, like a lot of the time travel aspect and you know, getting into that place of where you're trying to like extremely, because I feel like that's one of the main lessons of being here is to just realize to be present, change what you can from the moment without trying to, you know, micromanage, control things from an ego perspective. You know what I'm saying? From a fearful perspective, which is in alignment with the ego, because the ego is has a temporary existence, so it's always like in fear of that day when it's gonna no longer exist, in essence. So that's why it operates the way it does, like always trying to have us unfocused, like and just like, oh, over here, over here, over here, you know. Because even though it technically exists while we focus, you know, not to the point of how can I say, it's not controlling the situation as much as it could in essence if it was, like everywhere. But long story short, I thought about like even with doing inner meditations and healing the inner child, you know, it's like if I'm crying or dealing with some type of, let's just say like, like with a child or anybody that's on their growth. I can't force a child into being grateful for something right then in that moment, especially when we think about the way we used to get disciplined. Some of us, like where we would get whipped, as if we could stop right with that ass whipping, that whatever we was getting whipped for was gonna stop right then and there completely. You know what I'm saying? Like stop that crying. Whap, whap, whap. It's like I can't. You know what I'm saying? It's like like, and I think about that aspect with, our healing and how you can't force or rush, like we can't rush ourselves into healing. I don't get it twisted. We're not trying to sit and procrastinate and play with a certain energy, or be in victim mode about certain energies, you know what I'm saying? We want to be affirming and know I ain't no victim. Like I got this, you know, everything is in alignment. I'm healing my traumas. I got this shit, you know what I'm saying? And again, we doing all that and saying all that, and it just seems like something continuously, it's like something popping up, you know. And so in essence, that's again like when it's dealing with some type of past life energy. Because for the most part, what we experience with the inner child, I feel like in our childhood, we experiencing all the remnants of like what we just finished, like, what we experienced in our past lives and what we recently experienced transitioning into this earthly plane, you know, or at least bits and pieces of what we remember transitioning into this earthly plane. Because, we come in with amnesia. Some of us have stronger amnesia than others, you know. That's another reason why not to compare yourself on your growth, you know what I'm saying? Because so and so might remember fucking every single step to something that happened before they came into, you know, being a baby, coming out their mother's womb, while you may only remember bits and pieces or barely even remember that process. But again, we all got different levels of memory. That's not to that's not to discredit that, wanting to be tapped into where we could vividly visualize a lot of different things, you know what I'm saying, on a multi-dimensional level, from all our different uh dimensions of ourself, all the different aspects of our being, again, like all these different quote unquote past lives or dimensions to our existence or our being in essence. But again, bringing it back to not rushing, you know, not rushing the process, acceptance, and not hitting. I'm not, you know, trying to rush nothing or ain't nothing wrong with me. I'm accepting my past. And again, acceptance doesn't mean because I say I accept the 40 drinker I used to be, that doesn't mean that I'm not continuously changing. Again, creating my future and accepting my past. The past is the past, and in my now moment, I'm creating my future, which means I have the ability to create a future that's different from the past. If I had a past of continuously staying in a lesson loop because I was trying to over control things, then my now moment should be creating a future where I trust my intuition and I'm less fearful of the unknown and I'm, what I'm saying, in alignment with my inner being more, you know, instead of being fearful and trying to control things, you know. I feel like that's most likely what popped off in Kemet, you know. There's definitely some time travel aspect going wrong. And on a vibe, and it gets way deeper than just that, you know. There's layers and layers to this existence, so me bringing up like how I'm bringing up, oh yeah, it was definitely some time travel involving, say for instance, Kemet and the pyramids and stuff like that. Me saying that is no different from a cell in the body being like, oh yeah, the mitochondria got there because of this and that. You know what I'm saying? Like, it's so many layers. You know what I'm saying? But again, for the expression of human words and what we call these different places in this experience, it definitely felt like some faulty time travel vibes. And again, like a lot of us learned a lesson of like being fully present and not trying to like be too far in the past or too far in the future, you know, constantly looking for the future. Again, like yes, we definitely want to move, you know, want to constantly grow, which means we won't be able to hold on to the past, you know. And again, it's like not too far in the past, not too far in the future, you know what I'm saying? Right now, being fully, fully present. I feel like that's, the end game. One of the end games. In essence, as far as just like, like that alignment, I feel like that lesson is the lesson. You know, it makes a lot of sense. Like, now again, part of the lesson in some moments could be for us to see how much we can get out of alignment, you know? Like, again, like, all right, let's forget about the now moment and see how far we could you know, how far we could last with forgetting about the now moment. Like, and that goes to as far as that takes you. And it's like, all right. You might want to get back to, being present again because, the farther we get from the now moment, the more destructive things get, But destruction or destructing something exists in order for constructing or creating something, for that to exist, So again, it's the balance, but accepting, not healing, accepting the past, creating the future. Again, I'm always doing things that are of the highest priority for my now moment. It's a good little mantra. Creating the future and accepting the past. Because again, it's like self psychology, like looking at the macrocosm, like, all right, this world was created by this God, and it was a jealous God, or you got these beings who are like vampires who suck up energy, you know what I'm saying? And it's like, all right, if all that exists, and let's just say if I was God, or the universe, you know, just makes sense. I'm like, all right, what would happen if I like chose to fight against a part of myself as if it wasn't myself? You know what I'm saying? Like, and you get to, see that, and then it's like, all right, what makes sense? You know, like at the end of the day, there has to be more of self love than self hate, or more of love than fear. Because again, this realm or nothing would exist. Like, how, or some may say like, oh, love, unconditional love. That's just cliche hippie shit. You know what I'm saying? Da, da, da. And it's a balance to that because a lot of times this stuff that's where discernment come in. Some little stuff with spirituality may be some little cliche hippie shit, you know. But when you really think about it, and then because most people who not on no cliche hippie shit can agree on sacred geometry, the flower of life, you know, and can agree with the aspect of some level of love, Again, in order for you to exist on some level, you gotta love yourself. Think about what happens to people when they don't love themselves. And if I'm a physical representation of the universe, you know what I'm saying, I'm a physical experience, and then that means what I do, how my life is represented in this physical body is how, the representation of literally like, all right, if I was God of a world, this is what it would happen when I come across this. Like if I was God of a world, a moment I come across the first dis-ease in my world, I would give up. Or the first moment I come across a dis-ease in my world, I fight to get stronger. You know what I'm saying? Literally, the simple aspects within we call simple, but in our day to day, if I was a universe who could actually create another universe, you know, I would throw it in the dumpster. Or I would keep it and take care of it. You know what I'm saying? Like, again, on a simple level, it's just a baby or, it's just human stuff. But that human stuff is a representation of some God stuff. You know what I'm saying? And that's why even on a human experience, what is done is very important. That's why, again, regardless if it's a dream realm or like a jailhouse or whatever, because even in jail, your behavior is extremely important. You know what I'm saying? On your release date. You know what I'm saying? Or how your time gonna be spent at the least. You know what I'm saying? You feel me? Make a little bit of that on it. Powder, nobody say that now nutter like you say that now nutter. Can't get a now nutter. Accepting and not healing. Acceptance, man. Fuck, I don't already, it's done. Like what? I could continuously be mad at myself or be shamed or whatever that brings on negative energy, or I could be, like, hey, it is what it is. I got the chance to move forward. Every now moment is a new opportunity. Every now moment. That's why I don't like to get too lost in the sauce with astrology, because listening to astrology, sometimes it make things seem like, oh, once this new moon hit, that's a wrap. You ain't gonna never be able to da, 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 da. Or once this planetary transit happened and for the next 15, and I see where there's truth to, you know, those sciences. And it just goes with everything in moderation and balance and equilibrium. Like, being aware of that, but not to the point where I'm feeling like, oh, like where it's over, Like again, to where you're not looking at every now moment as an opportunity for change, like every now I don't give a fuck what cycles you've been going through the last few days. There's always the ability to respond differently, you know, quote unquote, take some type of different action. And again, sometimes some different actions is just lateral movement. You're not really doing nothing to necessarily affect what it is as much as you're just doing something different, and then there's again no moments where you're really doing something different, but more so like you're responding, like as your inner energy is responding to something differently, more so than just a bland action, or should I say bland action, but just like a different action. Like, like if I've been in the lesson loop of going to the coffee shop every day, and then I decide to, instead of go to the coffee shop, I go to another place. But energetically, I'm still doing the same thing. Like it wasn't nothing that's going to necessarily change anything, you know. But it's like, all right, change the inner energy of what's causing me to stay in an uptight routine of always going here. Not necessarily feeling like, oh, well, it's not the coffee shop, so I didn't change. It's the inner universe. And again, like staying with that awareness. That's why I love the law of correspondence. Like as above, so below, as within, so without. That's what it is. Peace, peace. Happy now. Now is the vibrate. Again, the solution is acceptance, being fully present. Now.